I'll start with my first question for Wendy. So, Wendy, as the marketing for Quest, promoting a lot of new concepts like Eaton, Tattoo, Toto, Denny's, a lot of big brands. When you're thinking about those concepts, what is your approach towards an omni-channel inclusion and how you do the promotion of those different concepts? How do you think about like the online reputation, how to manage the online reputation, and what in your experience has worked in the region and versus things that you've observed may not be so working?
Hello? Okay, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and it's a great kind of kick-off question. In terms of omni-channel, so for me, I look at each brand individually. So from an integrated kind of seamless approach, it's important that you identify quickly if your brand has the capabilities and the audience to warrant an omni-channel strategy. If I look at Eaton, for example, we take a multi-channel strategy for this. It's a smaller brand. It has one location in Marina, so it wouldn't warrant having this kind of big mobile app or website. We leverage instead aggregators to drive footfall for us. Obviously, we have the in-store piece, we have the digital menus, and so on. So I think as marketers, although you want to have that reach and engagement, it's important that you take a step back and see, is this actually going to deliver what I need, essentially? And then moving on to then the online reputation management. So we utilize a system that essentially pulls together all of our customer sentiments into one place. It's easier for us to then manage, to have kind of a 24-hour agile response. But we also use those comments to guide the strategy, essentially. So, for example, if you've launched a new menu or you've injected a new pricing strategy, what are your customers actually saying? How has it landed in the market? So it's a great way for us to pull all of this information and obviously build that relationship with customers and make actionable points that really affect business performance. And I think the last question was do's and don'ts.
Exactly.
So I've been working in marketing for 8 years. I think I've tried a lot of things. One thing that I would say is consistency is key. And I know that sounds really basic, but you can have, I hate the word viral campaigns that kind of, create this top of mind awareness. But what keeps bringing customers back is consistency, whether that's product, whether that's ambience, whether that's kind of value. That consistency is key. And also strategic partnerships, so how you can leverage those that really resonate with your brand and your consumers.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm going to go from one side of the stage to the other. So, Anton, also thank you for being with us. So you're the head of franchise for Dodo Pizza, which is experiencing a tremendous growth. And so obviously the key question for all of us is, what do you think is the secret sauce that drives your success, and what share do you attribute to digital, and what have you done in this area?
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Cedric. It's nice to see everybody. I'm Anton, head of franchise growth at Dodo Pizza. Dodo Pizza is it's a kind of digital-driven pizza brand, originally out of Russia. But now with around 1,000 restaurants across several markets, including now here in the UAE. So now to your question, Cedric, the secret, let's address that. There's no secret, okay? Basically, we're a franchising company, right? So out of those around 1,000 restaurants, about 970 are franchisee-owned. So basically what we managed to do is just basically create such operating model, such infrastructure for supporting franchisees, and such maybe not known, but such compelling and promising brand, so as to make this business for our franchisees essentially profitable. So the business model is profitable, so franchisees make money, and they want to make more money, the sooner the better. So they invest in opening more stores. So this, I think, is really the key driving factor behind the speed of growth, right? This is why we are the fastest growing pizza brand in the world. Now, to what extent technology can be blamed or can be sort of considered as a major driving factor behind that is, I think, debatable. And I would personally kind of caution against too much optimism for technology. I think for Dodo Pizza specifically, there is still that promise of technology, and we still haven't really done things that will be truly industry changing and truly disruptive things for the pizza industry. I think those things are still in the future. However, I mean, we've done a bunch of things besides technology to really spearhead the growth. But technology, I think, really helped us manage the growth, right? Because when you're growing fast, you're facing these growth challenges with quality control, people. Sometimes the number of restaurants grows faster than people can grow, like store managers and marketing managers and yada, yada, yada. So I think technology, because from the very beginning at Dodo Pizza, we laid the foundation with those analytics systems that allow us to see in real time what's happening in those stores, which are spread across a very vast space, right, and several countries. Because we were able to see that, we were able to manage those challenges that come with growth. So this is kind of how I would answer your question.
Thank you. Well, I turn to Sadique now because we just talked technology. So Sadique, from your vantage point, when listening to Wendy, to Anton, where do you see convergences and differences based on what your customers are experiencing? And I know when we were chatting, you stressed the importance of consumer engagement in the industry. So what would you say are things that the industry should be looking forward to?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here. I think the number one thing that matters to any food business is growth. And growth comes directly from the customer engagement. And it comes from knowing your customers and how you personalize things to them. I see in today's scenario the opportunity to digitally transform the store from a perspective of engaging with customers, from a perspective of knowing the customers first of all, because today you know them from a social media perspective, but you really don't know who matters to you the most. Who are those spenders? How do you reach to them? How do you engage with them differently? So those elements are a void today. I think tech has grown to a large extent that today the industry can consume this to spearhead an exponential growth that they can look forward for, where every store can probably 3x their sales. That's the number one thing where tech has to play a role. And obviously with that comes how do you manage your supply chain, how do you manage the demand. All that will follow with the technology itself. But the number one piece that matters to anybody is actually the growth of the store. And without tech, the exponential growth is not happening. So now AI has come in to such a scale that you can, if you have probably a fan follow of about 100,000 customers to your store, you can actually personalize each and every one of them individually. That's the scale where we are today. I think that experience is yet to be seen, but we are definitely looking forward to share that knowledge and expertise in helping the ecosystem grow beyond scale.
You said it, and I was seeing that, Neharika, you were nodding a lot as Sadique was talking. So from Foodics' perspective, what would you say, are the big trends when it comes to innovation in digital? What are some of the big technology that people should be looking forward to and how it's going to change the industry?
First of all, thanks for having all of us here. And I know, guys, it's post-lunch, but I hope all of you are with your coffees. This is going to be a very exciting panel. Back to your question, Cedric. Actually, I was resonating with all the points Wendy said, Anton and Sadique. For us, when you look at it from a POS standpoint, the innovation is all about solving the problems of our customers. That's the first step. You understand what the customers are looking for. Each customer comes from a different restaurant type, restaurant style, and they all have their own challenges. But I do heavily agree with Sadique that the first thing is about growth. But how do you achieve that growth? You understand from a massive feedback loop, which is from where Wendy is coming from. And I am a little bit of an old school thinker, so I do resonate with Anton that technology can be very disruptive, but there's something that a human touch can always add a bit of magic to. So for us, in terms of innovation, just to round up, it's about the problems that we're solving, the fundamentals that we're solving for our customers. We're also trying to understand how well we can empower them. So a lot of our customers are not necessarily MBA graduates, right? They're people with dreams, who wanted to start a restaurant, who wanted to kind of excel in the F&B world. So we're trying to empower them with information they can use to make the right decisions, whether it's data, because that's really critical. How well do you understand your business, not just from operations, but also from customers' point of view? What do your customers want to come back for? So I think that's how we circle around innovation in Foodics.
Thank you. Now, Marcus, turning to you as the general manager for Zabeel House, the Greens by Jumeirah. So lifestyle brand, but more hotel, so a little bit different business. Hearing about those technologies, are some of the technologies that you're using? And if so, how are you taking advantage of them? And are there others more specific to the hotel business that you think are also promising in the food business?
Thank you very much. So obviously, Zabeel House is a very dynamic hotel. So apart from 210 keys, we have 3 signature outlets within the hotel, and we operate those outlets. We don't outsource them. So innovation is something that's always, I guess, at the forefront of our thoughts. One thing I think is really important, and I think there's some agreements amongst the panel, innovation is wonderful, but it's also important to get the basics right. So I think it's really important within hospitality and within F&B that we focus on the basics and use, I guess, innovate to create a better experience for the guests, to create efficiency from an operations perspective, but not just innovate for the sake of innovating. Because sometimes within our industry, by innovating, we innovate for no specific reason, which then actually doesn't solve the problem that we have, doesn't necessarily bring us more customers. It might give us a couple of more likes on our social media, or maybe get some additional engagement through those channels. But for us, I think it's really key that innovation drives efficiency, and efficiency can be everything from the logistics perspective, the supply chain, everything from making efficiencies within the dining experience. But for me, when I talk about efficiency, in particular with my team, very much focused on the guest experience, is how can we innovate, use technology to, I guess, find efficiencies that free up my team, to give my team more time to engage with the guests, to have that personal interaction. So a lot of the innovation that we see in technology is not necessarily directly at the front of the guest. It's actually functioning behind the scenes, which creates this additional plus effect that is not always bells and whistles, and look at me, this is what we're doing. But it creates this foundation for us to do things better.
Thank you, Marcus. Now, turning to Mazen. So Mazen, you are the co-founder of House of Pops, one of the iconic brands coming from the UAE. So I was curious from your company's perspective, how are you thinking about omni-channel? I mean, everywhere I go in Dubai, I run into your brand. So very curious how you're thinking about the entire experience and how you're thinking about the different channels, the use of the digital in your own business.
Yeah, thank you for having me part of this panel. I think after the product, the key element that made us really successful is our omni-channel route to market. So if you, as you mentioned, if you go to the beach, you'll find our kiosk. If you go to the mall, you'll find us there. If you're in the hotel, if you are in Zabeel House, you will find also our bike. If you are at home, you can order. You go to the event, you will find them. I think this is key these days in order to have your product wherever the shoppers go, and this create a stronger affinity, especially when we go into events and catering. When you are with your family or your friends and you're having fun, and then you see the brand in a full setup, it creates a positive bond. And this, over the years, create this affinity that it's very difficult to break. The traditional ice cream either are only in the supermarket, and when you go to the fridge, you will see maybe hundreds of different products just sitting there, but there is not really, very difficult to do a one-to-one connection. or it is just an ice cream shop and it does not have the ability to spread. So I think this is really has been a key growth drivers and a key differentiator for us. And I think it's very important. It gets complemented by our social media communication. But one key, I think, that was mentioned about consistency, it becomes more challenging the more you are spread the consistency of the message that you communicate. So we have a very strong operational team to make sure that wherever you go, the same you get the same experience, from the drip holder to how you are welcomed into the shop, how they talk to you, how they do the upselling. So yeah, it is challenging, but it is very rewarding at the same time.
I think it's back. Thank you, Mazen. I wanted to stay with you, since we talked about innovation, and obviously the shortcut innovation equals technology is often fast, but I think innovation is a little bit broader. And as we were preparing for this panel, we discussed about trends in the industry. We talked about one tension, especially I think true here in Dubai, this tension between pushing the experience or pushing the food. And even on the food front, we're seeing more trends toward well-being, health, sustainability. So we're curious, from your perspective as founder of one of the few vegan snack concepts in the region, how are you thinking about innovation beyond just the aspects of digital and omnichannel we just discussed?
Yeah, so we have a big opportunity to innovate on ice cream, especially when you are playing in the health and wellness. Trends are always coming. Vegan is the best, yes, we are guys, but there is an opportunity to do protein ice cream. There is an opportunity to do keto ice cream, which we already have. So, but then we don't limit the innovation just from a product perspective, because we don't see House of Pops as an ice cream brand. It's more of an experience. And this experience can definitely come from standard innovation that should add value, as Marcus said, but it only expands to, the experience expands to how people interact with the brand. So we are very big on sustainability. Like the shirts and the shorts of our promoter are made from recycled plastic bottles. We do a lot of partnership within the ecosystem that enhances the experience. Like we have done, for example, with Mamarita, a local brand, a range for them. We have done with Deliveroo a range called Edible Beauty, where we used avocado and yogurt, and then that could enhance skin elasticity, for example. We can dig deeper into that. So there is several touch points. I think just product innovation by itself doesn't take you a long way. It needs to be complemented with experience that is through the branding, through partnerships, and through staying true to your key value propositions.
Perfect sense. And Marcus, going back to you, so thinking again on your role as hotelier, right, you must experience also this tension between providing the experience for the guests and the food and the trends. What is your approach to innovation at Zabeel House?
Look, I think innovation across the food and beverage industry within Dubai is like it's going at lightning speed, and it's difficult to keep up with all the new concepts and different elements that are being brought into the industry above and beyond food and beverage. There are so many destinations now that don't just provide food and beverage, but they provide a whole entertaining experience, from live music to dances to magic shows to all sorts of things. If you come to Zabeel House, you won't find any dances, you won't find any magic shows. You will find House of Pops, which for many people is obviously adds value. And I think it's really important for us as hoteliers, but also as F&B operators, to actually support each other and work with each other to elevate the guest experience. And I know I reached out to Mazen and said, Mazen, I need to get your product on my pool deck, because I went to a hotel, Russell came there with the family, and the one thing that kept us all energized and well fed was actually House of Pops. I think we had about 3 or 4, 5 between us, or each actually. So, and Chang was here before on another panel from 1004 Gourmet. There's a lot of other great operators that work within the F&B space that we can reach out, collaborate, have conversations. How can we work together to elevate what we're providing? Because I think at the end of the day, number one, like I mentioned before, foundations are key, but we do need to innovate within F&B, specifically within the hotels. People used to think, oh, I'm not going to eat in a hotel. Who goes to eat in a hotel? It's hotel food. And in hotels, we used to do things in a hotel-y kind of way. Where one thing I can proudly say within Zabeel House is our restaurants are independent restaurants. So when we talk about who do we compete with, we don't compete with other hotels, we compete with other independent restaurants. And in order to do that, we need to stay relevant, we need to stay fresh, we need to innovate. Innovate can be getting new produce, changing menus. I think we're touching upon potentially also non-alcoholic beverages is another way that we're innovating. There's been a major shift from alcohol consumption, and we're seeing a shift now in Dubai where we're moving more towards alcoholic-free cocktails, for example. So people no longer will come and say, can I have your mocktail list? They'll say, can I have your 0% cocktail list? So this is an interesting shift within our industry that we need to embrace. And it's a little bit like whether it be people used to say that veganism or introducing vegan items on the menu is going to be a bit of a fad. But obviously it's here to stay. And we need to make sure, same thing with all the different, like the shift from consuming alcohol beverages to non-alcoholic beverages, that we're on board, because these changes are coming, people are changing lifestyle, and we need to grow with the demands of the population and not tell the guests what they want, but listen to them and let us tell us what they want.
Very true. And now, turning back to Wendy, since we talked about a lot of competition, particularly in Dubai, and with your group, you have a lot of new restaurant concepts coming up. So how do you go about testing, whether you have the right concepts? How do you go about, leveraging still technology maybe to do those testing? What do you have in mind when you have those novelties coming to market?
So I think just to give some context, so I work for a company called FoodQuest. It has different divisions. Under the FoodQuest side, we have the fast casual. Under the SurfQuest side, we have Al Bake, which is QSR. And then under LeisureQuest, we have fine dining, which we're going to be launching a Tatel restaurant on Monday, and Toto will shortly follow. In terms of how we identify concepts to bring to this region, it goes back to what does the brand have to offer. If we look at Dubai as a whole, there's about 13,000 F&B concepts, from cafes to restaurants. So there is an abundance of everything already. So I think it's important, before you even kind of acknowledge and think about a brand, you've got to then do some market research. If there is anything missing, what can you bring that is unique? Is it a partnership? Is it a special cuisine offering? So aside from tracking kind of food trends, we also look at competitor landscape. Is there a lot of something in this market? Is there a demand for it? Pricing strategies as well, and then even looking then at locations. So if we talk fast casual, you're probably going to be within a mall area. If we talk fine dining, you're going to be in more of an affluent area, downtown, DIFC. So these things all kind of come into play that we do thorough analysis on. And then I suppose lastly, from once we have the concept, it's then testing it in market. So we're currently running a pilot program or a friends and family experience this week, where we're having people of our network actually come in, trial product, give real-time feedback, so that we can then relay the same to the ops team, to the culinary team, to the beverage team, to make those changes before we officially open to the market.
Makes sense. Anton, turning back to you, now, given the phenomenal growth your company is experiencing, one might think that you don't want to change anything. It's like, why change something that works really well? But I'm sure that we are all curious to hear how you guys are thinking about innovation. What might be already in plan for continuing the momentum for Dodo Pizza?
Sure. This might sound a little bit dramatic, but I kind of like to think that innovation is really in the DNA of the company. I truly believe that, even though, yeah, it does maybe sound a little dramatic. I live in Istanbul, but so this time I came to see our new store open here in Dubai, in Al Nahda. And the store before that opened some months ago. And the difference between the two stores in terms of the things that we implemented in the new store, the one that just opened, I mean, it's really noticeable. It's a totally new design. It's totally new kind of digital menu boards, those notification boards, the kiosks, and essentially everything. So it's the whole concept of the store is different. So it took us a couple of months to iterate that and basically come up with this new concept. And this, we're going to continue, obviously, to evolve. Now, here's the deal, okay? We are I guess you can say like an underdog or like an outsider in this. We're a Russian brand. You don't really know a lot of Russian QSR brands that that are successful internationally. We have been extremely successful in our home markets. As a matter of fact, like if you put together in terms of store counts, if you put together the three competitors that are behind Dodo Pizza, you put them together, they're still smaller than we in Russia. So it's a bit of the characteristic. It is a little bit like a monopoly almost in our home market. I think at some point this made us a little bit complacent, a little bit relaxed. But now is the time when this brand needs to prove that it can actually be internationally successful. So Dubai is one of the places where we're going to be doing that. It's a super competitive market. Yeah, sure, it's all about innovation, digital, and all that here. So this is what we're doing here, and yeah, I mean, listen, here we are kind of also between a rock and a hard place, right? Like in Russia, for instance, we are the dominant player. We don't even work with aggregators. Here you have the likes of Talabat, Deliveroo. We want to actually, at some point, to have the same outcome here as we have in Russia. We want to build a brand that is so strong that essentially, it deserves a separate space on the customer's smartphone. So there's no other choice for us. We don't have a internationally known brand. We don't have huge investors behind us. We will have to innovate in a major way, in a kind of disruptive way, so as to accomplish the goals that we have set out for ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Anton. So, Neharika, from your vantage points, where do you think that, or how do you think about innovation in your particular area?
I think if you really see how the panel has been progressing, we're all kind of singing the same tune. It is about understanding what your end customers are looking for. It is about constantly asking for the feedback, figuring out what is working, what is not. And again, like Marcus said, it's also about, have you got your fundamentals right? Are you solving the right problem? I think these are key areas where we're also looking at innovation. Something that's really exciting nowadays is self-ordering kiosks. I know that many restaurants are really excited to try them out, but what they don't really think about is, do we need them? And I think that's where we're trying to innovate. We're trying to educate people that, okay, so you have high volume restaurants, that's where it makes sense because you're reducing the queuing. Your customers are eventually going to be able to order faster. Your experience is going to be better. The long queuing, it's a very simple problem, but it's also something that stays with the customer for a really long time. It took me so long to just get a burger. So that's the kind of problem that we try and solve with our customers. So I think that's how product innovation should be, even from a tech point of view. Because nowadays, like we've been saying, yes, we're bringing in everything. We'll get new payment devices. Now you can pay with your eyes. All that is fancy, but how useful is it? I mean, is it solving a problem? Maybe your customers are like, dude, I just want cash. So what are you really solving? And that's the innovation part that we generally always look at. And again, I keep saying this, but the feedback is so critical. Also, just to lightly touch base, we're working with a lot of partners also. So at Foodics, while we've been able to champion front of house, we're doing exceptionally well with back of house. But there are areas that we also identify where we can empower our customers much more. So we're working with a lot of partners to achieve that as well. So I think together, we're trying to find the right mantra.
Thank you. Sadique, back to you now. I think we're closing on the innovation topic. Obviously, with GPT in your company's name, we're going to think innovation and technology. Now, if you put yourself in the shoes of retailers, of restaurants, what do you think they should be thinking about when thinking about their own innovation?
I think the number one thing that would matter to me as a retailer is to know my customers, what their feedback is, and what do they love, why would they come back to my place again and again. And I like to personalize things and serve them with the nuances, whatever they go through today. And that's the key to how I will look at innovation as a retailer, if you put my shoes into. I think that's about it. I mean, if you are able to service your customers at a personalized level, engage with them deeply, that solves the problem.
Sense. Sorry, I keep turning on and back, so I should probably leave it on. So we talked about the innovation, and we talked about the focus, I think, towards the consumption. We talked about the experience, the different concepts. But innovation can also be earlier in the value chain, right? From a sourcing standpoint, and again, sustainability, and there's a panel for sustainability, but it's a really big topic. So Mazen, being a local brand, locally grown business, having a vegan menu, what do you think can be done from a supply side of the equation on the front of innovation, or what have you seen that may have caught your eyes?
Yeah, I think the people and the consumers are now even are super sophisticated. They want everything. They want to consume a great product that tastes amazing, that's 100% natural, and that's good for the environment. It's becoming very tricky to please them, and for the right reason. And we are happy because this is how we created the business. But I'm just saying that they are extremely demanding. So I think it's not anymore an option. Do you want to work in a sustainable way, etc.? I don't think there will be any survival for any brand or any company that ignores sustainability. And sustainability can start from the product, but also the supply chain. For example, in House of Pops, we have taken some steps from the start of the company 5 years ago that still the consumers are not very much aware about, but we know that at one point it will come, which is the gas that we use in our freezers. All right. So the current gas that 90% of the other ice cream brand here use are the R404. We use the R290. It has a very low global warming potential. This is not being discussed, but I know that maybe 5 years down the line, this will come. And by that time, it will be unpractical for people or the brands who have built their infrastructure on a different gas to change. But for us, we are thinking, we have it in design the way we are doing that. So we look at all the aspects, the packaging, and I think the entire ecosystem is really pushing the limits when it comes to this. 2 days ago, I visited Bustanica and I met with Firas, and we discussed how he is also, from his perspective, pushing the extreme on the sustainability and on making sure that there is no leftover that are just thrown. So I think the entire supply chain is moving in this direction, and you cannot ignore it moving forward.
Thank you. And Marcus, back to you. Now, we know we had now a couple of years ago a new mandate when it comes to the Dubai sustainable tourism. I'm curious, how are you rethinking your supply chain when it comes to sustainability, or has it not been a topic?
Look, I think there's been some great initiatives from the government to put pressure on businesses to be more sustainable. And it's music to my ears when I hear that our vendors within the supply chain, such as Mazen, are really focused on having environmentally friendly and sustainable practices. So Zabeel House, when it opened, one of the key ethos of the hotel was sustainability. And this was 5-6 years ago. So the hotel opened very much with the, endeavor to be plastic free. We've recently, or I guess at the end of last year, removed all plastic bottles, or the use of all plastic bottles in the guest room, meeting rooms, F&B outlets. We work with a local company by the name of Sprudel that provides filtered water in all our outlets, guest rooms, meeting spaces. So not only have we gone plastic-free, but we're also reducing the carbon footprint of having bottled water, even glass water, moved around the country from different parts of Europe and so forth that end up here in the Middle East. But also, it's amazing the innovation that exists in our space at the moment when it comes to sustainability. And I'll give you one example. We're in communication with a company by the name of Crispy Farms, and they do hydroponic farms on site. So they have proposed, and actually we have this in one of our other properties in Jumeirah, where they would provide a hydroponic farm on property where they would generate up to 10 kilograms of leafy greens, microgreens, flowers, and so forth that we can utilize in our restaurants. So this reduces the carbon footprint. It provides the guests with a much more sustainable and fresher produce because it goes straight from the farm to the table of the guest. But it's not just about the supply chain. It's where does that end up? Where does all the food waste end up? And there's other great companies that are doing work within the region. There's some ladies that operate the Waste Lab. And the Waste Lab focuses very much on landfill diversion. So we're talking about innovation in the space of waste segregation. That means that organic waste will not end up in landfill, but will end up in composting yards. And ideally, that compost can come back and be used in our gardens in the hotel. So it's this full loop. It's looking at sourcing, utilization, which comes down to waste reduction within the outlets, but also what are we doing with that waste? And I'll just give one example regarding the bottled water. The bottled water, we have refillable bottles. It comes from filtered water plant within the hotel. We bottle the water every evening. We put it in the guest rooms. The guests consume the water. But we don't just bring back the bottles and refill them. Any water that's left, we bring it back to the bottling plant. We tip it into another container. And that water then ends up in the gardens of the hotel. So it's really important that as, I guess, within the industry, we look for the smallest opportunity to make a big difference. And it's something I think that everyone here on this panel takes very seriously, and hopefully this will just continue to roll out across the food and beverage scene, specifically within the UAE, but of course, globally as well.
Thank you, Marcus. So I'm looking at the time. I think we have time for one last question. So maybe, Anton, I'll go back to you. So we talked about growth, we talked about innovation. You mentioned, clearly you're going to have to think about innovation moving forward. Now, thinking about the scaling of your business, since you were, as you said, almost, you're the dominant player in Russia. I'm not going to use the word you used. But now you're venturing outside of Russia, you're expanding geographically. So how do you think in terms of the supply for your different franchise, and how do you innovate from the supply side of the equation?
I guess innovation on the supply chain side of things is not really part of our strategy. Maybe this has to do with the fact that we come from Russia, right? So initially when we first started, in the largest country in the world with the super difficult supply chain, I guess from the beginning we had to get comfortable with the fact that the supply chain that we're going to have is going to be imperfect. From the very beginning, like even across Russia, the first couple of stores that opened in different parts of the country, they used different products from different manufacturers. So even like in the early stages of the brand, the taste was not consistent across the country. So this is something that we started with. Obviously now it's not like that anymore because it's a big brand there domestically, so it has to be consistent. But going internationally, our approach is localization, right? We don't aspire to have the taste of our pepperoni pizza to be the same across different countries. This is just not something that our brand is pursuing. There are brands like, let's say, Papa John's. Let's say their pepperoni pizza in the US and here, they taste pretty much the same, save for the whole halal element. But we are not one of those brands that pursues that. It's not part of our strategy, and it's not the end of the world. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, I want everyone to join me in thanking again all of our panelists. I think we learned a lot, and I think from different angles from the business. So thank you very much. Very interesting conversation. Happy to continue it privately. But join me to thank all of our panelists for today's session. Thank you very much.